It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started.
Another very common question I encounter is a career path or career growth path for Scrum Masters. Where is it? What is it? How do I find it? And what I can tell you is I don't think one exists. In the past, years ago, the advice that everyone gave Scrum Masters was to make yourself redundant. Um, the intent is not to get fired, but to do such a good job that you're not needed anymore and move on to the next thing. Now, this is a great piece of advice, but it could also be considered misguided because you have to have more options than that. You can't just make yourself redundant and leave. So eventually you have to figure out how you're going to grow and what direction you're going to take things, right? So a gentleman wrote an article recently where he talked about, I'm trying to remember his name, but he talked about vertical growth versus diagonal growth. And he said with vertical growth, it starts with you looking after one team, helping them be successful, and then eventually, as your confidence grows and as your capabilities grow, you go on to 2 teams, then to 3 teams, and later you'll have a team of agile folks that are doing all the work, and you become kind of an ornament. You're there as a support to make sure that the teams have everything they need to be successful when they reach that point where they're doing really strong norming. Now, this is a great place to be because then instead of taking on a 4-team or 15, you can start to focus on an internal Agile Center of Excellence. You can start to focus on internal growth. The second option is diagonal growth, where you start dipping your toes outside of Agile and start learning about other things that you can do, right? So when you begin with one team, usually that team's learning Agile with you. They're moving through the hoops. And your goal is to try to make sure you understand their needs and that you're providing solutions to help them be able to release regular product increments. Then you move on to 2 teams. Usually when you get to 2 teams, that means one team's doing good. And then there's a second team who is just learning the ropes coming on board. Eventually you get to 3 teams. And that's when you start bouncing around a little bit, clicking, and really feeling what it feels like to be a strong Agile coach. Now, the next natural progression is for you to lead or to work with a team of Scrum Masters and internal project management organizations to create an internal Agile Center of Excellence where you can potentially become a head of Agile or a transformation lead, and eventually, chief Agile officer if it goes that far. But there needs to be a path for growth, or else people will get stuck in a Scrum Master position and not know exactly what to do next. But I think the other piece of this, which is really, really interesting, is if you're doing diagonal growth, right? One of the acronyms that I remember is that with that extra time that you have, that you need to work on your bod. I know what you're thinking. He's going to talk about a dad bod or a studly bod. That's not what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about bod. I want to explain these needs. The first one is building. Building is about transforming the direction into a usable product. So helping the product owner transform their vision and strategy into a roadmap that makes sense, that's consumable, into some direction that we can go with so that we can deliver a high quality product or service. I love this. The O stands for organizing. This takes shape around running the project smoothly. You can work as a Scrum Master and teach ways of Scrum, or as a delivery manager helping coordinate the work, or even as a high-level portfolio manager where you are helping with the bookends. Do we have our funding ready, our finance? Are we training ready? Are we regulatory ready? Do we have everything ready to go with answering calls and support? Sounds silly, sounds crazy, but those people still need to exist. This means you might have to step out of your regular Agile workspace and move into a different area in order to make sure you get things growing. And this exposes different parts of the company that you'll then be able to effectively work with as a team. Then the D is directing. Directing is exactly what it says. It's either setting a technical direction or an architectural direction or a product direction or a structural direction. This is where I talk about the BAFATA. So the business analyst, where they're understanding the voice of the consumer and setting that consumer direction, or the functional analyst, where they understand strategic direction and driving direction that way. Or you have the technical analyst, of course, which is responsible for architecture and infrastructure and making sure that we have the wherewithal to deliver high quality products and services. No matter which way you go, the key is understanding that the Scrum Master definitely has a career path with growth, that you definitely have options as far as how you're going to learn about the company and what your path is, and that you kind of know where the progression is. Because if you learn those things and you follow this strategy, I can promise you that it won't take long for an organization to recognize you as a servant leader and for you to be able to climb the ranks and do the things that you've always wanted to do and successfully lead an organization into those agile waters and successfully lead them out with high quality products and services. I hope this was useful to you. I hope you're having a great week. If you have a topic you want us to discover, feel free to reach out to us, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to talk about your topic. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.